somewhere. There's some right here in the hall clerk.
No, Molly, I have a look.
Here's the schematic for the Simpson 260. And as you can see, hopefully, I've gone through every resistor, listed them all, their actual values as compared to what's on the schematic. And there are a couple of issues. One is right here. This R26 is supposed to be 11.3 ohms, or R16 rather, and it's open. And we'll look at that in just a second. The second problem is right here. R24 and R23 are supposed to be 4K each, precision resistors again. And what they are is 9.5 each. So it's unclear to me if it were just, if one was out of whack, you know, I'd say, okay, I've got a resistor out of whack. But what I have is two, and they're almost the identical value. I'll have to look at them and see if I can find markings on them. It might be that the 4Ks in the original design were replaced with these 9.5 megs, but that's a huge, you know, it's just not a small adjustment. That's a huge difference. So I'm not sure yet. I'll have to do a little bit more research and see. But first, let's take a look at this 11.2 ohm resistor. And it happens to be the one that we saw earlier with the cracked shrink wrap. And you can see down in, or I can see, you might be able to see, that that's wire wound resistor. So what I've done is unsoldered it from the back side. I'm just going to pull it out. I have not looked at this yet beyond unsoldering it. Let's stick it on one side. Ah, there it is. And let's see what we have here. Let's set this up here. It's definitely wire wound. It looks pretty large gauge wire. Let me work at getting this shrink wrap off. It's really hardened now. So let me work at getting that off, and then we'll take a look and see what we see. Okay, I think I found the break. Point it out right here, I hope. You can probably see it. Right there is the end of a piece of wire. Right there. So it appears to me that that has broken from somewhere. I can't see the other end unless it's right there. Just possible. But that's clearly a problem.
My first inclination was to rewind that coil. It is simply a coil of wire around a former, but there are a couple of differences with this coil of wire. One is the wire I've just taped down there is 30 gauge resistance, or sorry, 30 gauge magnetic wire, which is just plain copper wire. And the wire that's in the resistor itself on the former is actually probably something called constantan, C-O-N-S-T-A-N-T-A-N, and then a copper alloy. And it has a resistance per foot or inch or centimeter or whatever you want to measure that's about 40 or so times higher than just plain copper wire. So by an online calculator, and you can find those easily, calculate the resistance per distance for standard gauge wires. Plain old copper wire has a resistance of about what is it? 0.103 ohms per foot for 30 gauge, which would take 108 feet on this former, and that would fill the former plus, so that's too much wire. Another thing you might notice from the shape of the former under magnification, it's flat, and that's flat so as to not form a really nice coil. If it's flat, then the magnetic fields on opposite sides of the coil tend to cancel each other out and reduce the inductance created when you wind wire around a bobbin like that. So overall, it's not going to work to wind a new bobbin, a new former, to replace this. It's impractical. I could order some Constantan wire. It's available, but I don't want to. I don't like winding coils. So, what to do instead?
I'm going to try something else first, and that is a good old 10 ohm quarter watt resistor. This isn't an old one, this is a new one, but remember, this is 11.2 ohms, this is 10. These are gold, yeah, so 5% accuracy. I've measured all the ones that I have on this strip, and none of them go as high as 11, but you wouldn't expect that for that accuracy. So I'm going to put a 10 ohm resistor in here and then see if I can calibrate this to compensate for the difference. It will certainly work better than an open resistor, which is what was in there before. So I'll put that in and we'll check back in and see how it goes. Okay, I have a modern quarter watt 10 ohm resistor. This is where the original 11.2 ohm resistor went. And now we'll see if we can, you might recall, the problem was not being able to zero the ohm meter scale at R times 10,000 down here. It would just go, the meter would go off scale and that would be it. So now we'll switch this back to R times 1 plus DC. See if I can get this where you can see it. Okay. We're on R times 1. These are the nice old floppy. I don't think I've ever taken one of these apart to see how many strands of wire there are in there, but they're not stiff at all. They're wonderful. These, the ends aren't so great, but they'll do. So here's R times 1, and we can definitely zero that. R times 100, same. R times 10,000, the same. Okay, I've checked a few things out. Resistance all works. I haven't checked the amperage yet. Resistance works. DC volts works, and it's pretty accurate. But when I come to switch over to AC volts and just go into the wall, should be 122 volts here. And all it says on AC is around 75 or 80, can't remember which, volts. Now there's an adjustment right here that is supposed to let you calibrate AC volts. And it does not. And then I remembered what we found the other day, which was these two resistors right here. The adjustment for the one I just pointed out on the back is this R22 right here. And this is, you know, just a bridge rectifier. But these two resistors, the schematic says 4K each, and one comes out at 9.5 megohms and the other at 9.7 megohms. You know, and they might actually be open. Could be open. But I haven't, I forgot I was going to remind myself to check those out and see if I could find some labels. Instead, I'll pull one end and see if they are in fact open. And then I'll replace them with a couple of stock 4K quarter-watt resistors, if they are. If that's the case, then that's curable, and I've got a functioning meter. So I'll try that. I've pulled the two resistors in question up, one here and one here. So let's see what their values are. It's floating around like a condenser. 22 megohms. Come on. And open. So let's see, what can I say about the values? 1%. Looks like an M20S 4K. So these are supposed to be 4K resistors. One is open, the other is virtually open. Okay, well, all right, I've replaced both these resistors with 4K 5%ers. These are supposed to be 1. But, you know, this will probably never be a laboratory instrument again, so, and it's working well enough for me. So right now we have 122 volts AC, 0.6 volts AC coming into the house. The AC scale is right here, the 25, and we've got 1.212 and some, which is accurate as it was ever going to be anyway. So we have a functioning volt-ohm meter, Simpson from the 1970s. I'll button it all up and put it on the shelf and replace these. I'll particularly replace this mess here. But yeah, I'm happy. It turned out okay. It cleaned up nicely. It works. So take care of yourself. I'll see you the next time.